kotse ba? Philkotse na.
Excited na ba ang lahat na mag-move on sa mataas na presyo ng gasolina, diesel o auto LPG at lumipat sa electric vehicles or EVs? I'm sure sabik na kayong makawala sa pagiging tali sa oil prices. After all, what's not to like about EVs as an alternative form of mobility? Bukod sa emissions-free at mas mababa ang maintenance, ilang beses na ring na-demonstrate na hindi pa huhuli ang mga dekuryenteng sasakyan pagdating sa performance. Diesel fans na addict sa torque, take note ha! Yun nga lang, kahit gaano ka-advanced at high-tech ang electric vehicle na kukunin nyo, baliwala kung walang sapat na infrastructure in place para suportahan ang ownership at maintenance niyan, di ba? Paano kayo magcha-charge? Saan kayo bibili ng pyesa? Mahirap bang i-dispose ang baterya ng electric vehicle kung matapos na ang service life niyan? Fortunately, for those of us thinking of getting an electric vehicle, there may be some answers in sight. Hello car fans, this is Joseph and welcome to Explain Like I'm Fine. And today we talk about the EVIDA Law. Oh, like nyo muna itong video namin ha, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click the bell icon to receive the latest updates. Daan na rin kayo sa aming Philkotse Car Guide by clicking the link at the description below para updated kayo sa full specs, latest pricing at news. Mula sa pagiging pantasya lang, unti-unti nang nagiging bida ang electric vehicles dito sa ating bansa. Thanks to Republic Act 11697, also known as the Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act, or EVIDA, that lapsed into law in 2022. This calls for the creation of a comprehensive roadmap for the electric vehicle industry, or CREVI, na magsisilbing National Development Plan. Question: kailangan pa ba natin yan? Alam nyo kasi, lahat naman may karapatan na bumili ng electric vehicles or EVs para magamit, lalong-lalo na kung kaya ng budget. Pero kung EV talaga ang trip natin, mas masaya syempre kung meron tayong maaasahang suporta mula sa gobyerno at private sector, di ba? Para naman hindi tayo solo flight kumbaga at talagang masulit yung pinambili natin ng EVs. Let's take a look at the exact kinds of vehicles that the EVIDA Law aims to help us with. By the law's definition, an electric vehicle or EV uses at least one electric drive for propulsion. Ibig sabihin, dapat isa ang kuryente sa mga nagpapatakbo sa sasakyan. Ano-ano ba ang mga yan? First, there are battery electric vehicles or BEVs. Ito yung mga gumagamit exclusively ng electricity through the use of traction batteries that provide power to an onboard electric motor that spins the drive wheels. Walang combustion engine na kasama yan ha. Second, there are hybrid electric vehicles or HEVs. These are vehicles that have both a combustion engine and a rechargeable energy storage system for propulsion. Pasok dito ang parallel hybrids kung saan nagsasalita ng combustion engine at electric motor sa pagpapatakbo ng sasakyan. Pati na ang series hybrids kung saan electric motor lang ang responsible for propulsion, habang nagsisilbing generator or range extender ang combustion engine. Paano yung mild hybrids? Kasama din yan since pasok sila sa definition ng batas. Third, we have the plug-in hybrid vehicles or PHEVs. These are hybrid electric vehicles that can be plugged into an external source to charge the onboard battery. Fourth, the law also includes light EVs. Ito naman yung mga EV na ginagamit bilang alternative forms of micro-mobility. These include electric scooters or e-scooters, electric bikes or e-bikes, mga Segway na parang nakakatakot sakyan, and similar vehicles that don't weigh more than 50 kilograms. Of course, mahirap namang limitahan lang sa mga yan ang sakop ng EVIDA Law, which is why in consideration of coming advances and improvements in technology, other EVs that will be recognized by the Department of Energy or DOE are also included for future reference. Again, basta gumagamit ang mga yan ng at least electric drive for propulsion. So, na-establish na natin na dapat dekuryente ang sasakyan para masakop ng EVIDA Law. Sa kaso ng BEVs and PHEVs, sabi nga natin na kailangang isaksak ang mga yan sa external power source para ma-recharge ang battery. Kumbaga sa combustion engines, hindi lang naman sa bahay dapat nagpapakarga ng gasolina at diesel, di ba? Kaya nga kung saan-saan tayo nakakakita ng gas stations in case abutan tayo ng low fuel level sa daan. Ganon din ang logic pagdating sa EVs. That's why the EVIDA Law requires that EV charging stations must be installed in both private and public buildings. One example, commercial use charging stations that are open for public use. Nakakakita na tayo ng mga yan sa shopping malls at select gas stations. Another is own-use charging stations. Ito yung facility na hindi open sa general public at reserved for exclusive use of specific individuals, tulad ng charging station sa loob ng isang kumpanya o kooperatiba. Meron ding tinatawag na battery swapping station or BSS. Dito, imbis na maghanap pa kayo ng saksakan para sa EV nyo, pwedeng ipalit na lang yung baterya yung malapit ng madiskarga in exchange for a fully charged battery. Parang yung mga panahon ni Tito Stan na removable pa ang baterya ng cellphone, kaya swap-swap na lang ng battery kapag nalobat na. The CREVI ultimately decides on which private and public establishments will get to have these charging stations installed. The ideal areas are parking lots, since those are where vehicles are typically stored when not in use. In accordance with the National Building Code of the Philippines, there will be parking slots for the exclusive use of EVs. Pero hindi basta-basta ang pagkuha ng slots na yan dahil depende sa total number of parking slots that a given establishment has. Sabihin na nating may minimum na 20 parking spaces in total sa isang commercial building. Ang dapat na parking slots allotted for EVs, at least 5% ng bilang na yan. And when it comes to installation, operation, and maintenance of the necessary charging stations in these parking slots, the owner of the private or public building gets first priority for that. Of course, dapat consistent ang charging stations na ito with the standards of CREVI and implementing rules of the EVIDA Law, kasama na ang technical requirements at time frame. Pwede bang maglagay ng charging station sa gasolinahan? Of course! In fact, sa mga mapipiling gas stations under CREVI, required din ang pagkakaroon ng dedicated spaces for the installation of charging facilities. As with buildings, first priority din ang gas station owner sa pag-install, pag-operate at pag-maintain ng EV charger sa mga poder nila. Take note, in all instances, there will be no construction permit issued by the local government unit concerned kapag nakitang hindi sapat or hindi ideal ang napiling lugar na paglalagyan ng EV charger. Marami pang provisions ang nakapaloob sa EVIDA Law, pero simplihan natin by heading straight to the more important stuff. What's in it for the various stakeholders such as consumers, importers, and manufacturers? In short, ano ba ang mahihita natin sa pagkakaroon ng electric vehicles? Simulan natin sa importers, mainly kasi wala pa naman tayong capability para mag-produce ng EVs on a large scale. So malamang aasa muna tayo sa imported units. The EVIDA Law allows those importing completely built EVs to enjoy tax exemptions under the Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion or TRAIN Law. Sa kaso ng imported jeepneys and electric tricycles, may instances na pwedeng suspindihin ng Department of Finance ang exemptions na yan para naman maprotektahan ang local manufacturers. Take note, hindi lang para sa EVs yan, kundi pati na rin sa mga mag-i-import ng materials and equipment sa paggawa ng EVs, pati na rin sa paggawa at pag-install ng charging stations. EV manufacturers and importers will also be entitled to faster processing at the Bureau of Customs when it comes to bringing in parts and components from overseas. Recently, pinirmahan na ng Presidente ang Executive Order 12 bilang batas. This order temporarily amends the Customs Modernization Act by suspending the 30% import duties on charging and distribution components for EVs, as well as other equipment used for their production. Valid ito for 5 years or until 2027. And the hope is that this will help in bringing down prices of EVs to make them more affordable in the market. Kung sakaling gusto nyong bumili ng mahigit sa isang EV para gamitin sa negosyo, nasa batas din ang pag-extend ng tulong pinansyal ng gobyerno, pati na ng private financial institutions, lalo na pagdating sa pagkuha ng consumer loan. Preferential interest rates and payment schemes will also be given for loans that will be exclusively used to acquire EV fleets for public transportation. Banks will also be encouraged by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to allot loans for manufacturers, assemblers, and users of EVs, charging stations, and batteries. Priority dyan ang financing packages para sa pagbili ng EV fleets at kailangang madali ang proseso para sa mga kukuha nito. Paano naman ang consumer o end user? Meron ding incentives na nakalaan para sa inyo. Una, kung bibili kayo ng EV, merong discount sa pagbabayad ng Motor Vehicle Users Charge tuwing magre-renew ng rehistro. Kapag BEVs ang gamit nyo, 30% ang diskwento. Kapag HEVs naman, 15% ang bawas. Hindi lang MVUC ang mababawasan dahil may reduced rates din pagdating sa inspection at registration fees. But that's not all. If you have a BEV or an HEV, priority kayo pagdating sa new vehicle registration as well as renewal. And you also get a special license plate from the Land Transportation Office or LTO. What's more, those using EVs will be exempted from the number coding scheme and similar traffic volume reduction programs implemented by the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA, other government agencies, and local government units. Siyempre, titimbangin din nila kung ano ang magiging epekto ng exemptions na yan sa overall vehicle volume sa daan. Para naman sa mga public transport operator na walang ibang ginagamit kundi EV sa kanilang mga fleet, bibilis ang pagproseso ng mga application for franchise and renewal pagdating sa Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB. Kung meron silang mga empleyado, makaka-avail din sila ng training programs mula sa TESDA pagdating sa assembly, use, maintenance at repair ng EVs. Itong mga benepisyo na ito, good for 8 years mula sa pagiging batas ng EVIDA. So more or less, hanggang 2030, pwedeng mag-avail. Our budding electric vehicle industry is far from perfect, pero ang mahalaga, naumpisahan na with the passage of the EVIDA Law. Hopefully, ito na yung simulang hinihintay nating lahat tungo sa pagiging independent of fluctuating oil prices, as well as moving away from the harmful health and environmental effects of using fossil fuels. This has been Joseph for today's episode of Explain Like I'm 5. Thanks for supporting Philkotse, and kita tayo sa next video. Thanks for watching. For the latest news, reviews, and anything you want to know about cars and car ownership, visit philkotse.com. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Spotify para hindi ka huli sa usapan. Tandaan, kotse ba? Philkotse na!